Okay, history lesson over. Here we are in August 2024, but how did we get here? Let me break it down very quickly. Plaintiffs in various suits have accused many of the big national brokerages, many multiple listing services, and the National Association of Realtors with collusion with price fixing. Their contention was that the commission rate paid by sellers, which remember was divided up between the two participating brokerages, was not negotiable, and that it was unfair that they had to pay the buyer's brokerage. The National Association of Realtors and all other parties named in this suit have always, and as far as I know, will always, with every last breath, deny price fixing. I'm here to tell you that I personally have heard of all kinds of commissions earned by seller brokerages, so there can't possibly be a standard. And all kinds of divisions other than 50-50 for sharing that money with the buy side. In fact, sometimes sellers would offer a variable rate commission. They would say it depends. And sometimes in buyer's markets, which is the kind of market we don't have now, but where inventory outpaces demand, sellers would sometimes offer a bonus commission to the buy side for bringing a buyer who wound up successfully transacting on the property. Now, I am not trying to say that those negotiated sell side commissions varied extremely widely. The range was narrow. But I can't say for sure since they were private. Realtors have always been sticklers for not sharing their commission rate they get on listings, precisely because collusion is against the code of ethics, illegal under license law, and punishable by hefty fines. You can just imagine, as with my previous pizza example, the rates were and likely are in a fairly narrow range because, as we've talked about, like all goods and services, it's what the market will bear. And most of all, sellers could negotiate the commission with their potential listing agents. And listing agents are independent contractors, and as such, free to set their own rates and negotiate the same with their potential clients. Is it possible that some listing agents didn't let their seller clients know that their commission is negotiable and they presented it as a done deal? Probably. But on the other hand, again, we are independent contractors. We know our own value. Ideally, we articulate that clearly. It's just another point for you as a consumer to keep in mind when you're hiring an agent. Now, it is certain that we, as an industry, did ourselves, and especially consumers and clients, no favors when some of us, at least, used to say to buyers, "Oh, don't worry, our services to you are free since the seller will pay." One, that was a holdover way of thinking when subagency was the norm. And two, it was patently false because where does the money in a transaction come from? Remember the funnel? That's right. As you knew all along, the money in any real estate transaction is coming from the buyers. In fact, they are the ones who have historically and ultimately paid commission to both brokerages. But that's an interesting topic for another time. Let's get back to what's happening after August 17th this year. There are really only three changes. One, the cooperating commission, which means the percentage advertised by the seller's brokerage to any potential buyer's brokerage, can actually no longer be advertised in the multiple listing service. Remember myth number one. It merely defines one part of one venue where it cannot be advertised. Now, real estate professionals have grave misgivings about this, and we are scratching our collective heads with consternation because this is going to be less transparent and more confusing to consumers than the system which has been in place for so long. We're very worried about disparate impact to first-time homebuyers, to veterans, to people of color, anyone who has both fewer assets and less financial sophistication. But we will work strenuously on our clients' behalf to find out what the cooperating commission, if any, will be and communicate that to our buyer clients. We will make more phone calls. We will send more emails, more text messages. We might look at yard signs. We might look on brokerage websites, but not any of the portals such as Zillow. When the co-op commission field leaves the MLS, it automatically will also leave all the sites to which multiple listing services syndicate their data. Now, whether the sell side is going to pay all or a portion, or the buyers will pay their own brokerage themselves, this amount won't be unknown to the buying party anymore, because the buyers might have to negotiate for it as part of their offer on the property, or they might have to pay it themselves, even though they really always were, as it went into the top of the funnel from them to the sellers. The second change wrought by the lawsuit settlement is that buyer agents must have signed buyer representation agreements from buyer clients before we ever show them any property. Now, these are not new documents, but unfortunately, many agents did not use them at all, or they did not use them in a timely way. Now, we need to talk to buyer consumers from the beginning that our value is X, and thus our own commission is Y. But again, this is negotiable. And that the buyers will need to pay for their own brokerage representation if the seller is not offering that to the buyer. That part of the funnel will change. Sellers' brokerages will not be cooperating, which means they won't be sharing a proportion of their own commission with the buyer's brokerage. They won't be doing that anymore, but sellers may choose to pay some percentage for the buy side and will pay that directly to the buyer's brokerage without the monies going through their own brokerage first. I know, it's complicated. But just remember again, commission is not going away. One venue for advertising it is going away. I imagine many agents will attempt to learn the specifics on this for every property our buyer clients are interested in, and let them know before each and every showing what the commission offered, if any, will be. And if it's less than what the buyer has contracted to pay their own brokerage in that buyer representation agreement, the buyer can choose not to see the property. It will always be the client's choice. On the other hand, even if the seller says during the active listing time that they plan to offer such, it is not binding until written in the contract. We are just going to have to wait and see how this shakes out. And it will undoubtedly differ across different micro markets, different price points, and locales. The third related change is that we, to the extent any of us ever did, must stop telling buyers our services are free and negotiate our own commission rate with them, written and agreed to in the buyer representation agreements, which will delineate how much buyers will need to pay their own brokerage, not their own agent. Remember the funnel. If the seller does not, or if the sell side is offering some amount but not as much as the buyer agreed to pay, then the buyers would have to make up that difference. And that's it. I'm going to conclude this video series with one more meaty episode about what we think these changes will mean for buyers and sellers. And I've decided to combine those talking points in one video rather than separating them, because whichever you may be next in your real estate life, it will help you to understand the other side's negotiating position. So thanks for following along thus far, and stay tuned for that.